Hello, I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
And this is the Doctor Who Show's hot take for the latest episode of Doctor Who 73 Yards. How are you, Rob?
Dave, slightly chilly this morning. Getting up early to watch this Doctor Who. It's always chilly.
Yes, it's a bit cold here as well, but that's fine. I'm well, like Ruby. I have been to Wales 3 times, and I have held coats next to a politician doing a national interview. So, I'm feeling very Ruby today.
Have you ever frightened one off the stage?
I don't think so.
Very good.
Rob, let's crack in, because we've got, I don't know if we've got a lot to say. I've got some things to say. I don't know how many there'll be. Last time I thought I had nothing, and I had a full half hour, so we'll see. Rob, let's crack in. 73 yards. What's your word of the week?
My word of the week is horror.
Horror. My word of the week is shame.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we'll explore that at the end of the show, as we always do. We'll have a sports test coming up shortly, but let's start, Rob, where, I think it's a good place to start. Did you enjoy the episode? What's your big opening take on 73 Yards, episode 4 of this new series?
Oh, I'm not sure if it's a big take, but I will say up front that I liked this, and going into it, I always read little non-spoilery reviews and things. So I had a bit of a feel for what it would be like. And one of the comments coming out of the production team was like, this is a bit unlike anything we've ever done before. And I would agree with that. And I actually like that. I like that this did something that just felt a bit unlike Doctor Who, felt more like just sort of a story that some Doctor Who characters were in. And it went places. I do have some criticisms. We'll get into those as well. But broadly, I quite enjoyed sitting down and watching this. It felt refreshing. It felt very different to last week. I liked last week. Last week felt Doctor Who-ish. This didn't feel so Doctor Who-ish, even though it had the Doctor in it and Unit in it and all sorts of stuff. So I'm maybe tiptoeing around the topic a little, but broadly, yeah, I liked it.
I certainly thought this was a very good piece of television. I was definitely gripped by it pretty much from the opening. I really was genuinely unsure for most of it where it was going to go and what it was going to do.
Yes.
There was at least one twist I genuinely did not see coming, and it did throw me. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's not something I expected. RTD has subverted my expectations there. So overall, a positive experience. Some criticisms, some positives, and we'll explore them now. Rob, I'll let you open. Any thoughts? Any details you want to talk about?
Well, I'll just start by saying, of course, let's acknowledge that this is a Dr. Light episode, and I don't think Dr. Light episodes have been used enough in Doctor Who. I mean, I don't think you'd want them to happen multiple times a season or anything crazy like that. But they've been used so sparingly that when they come up like this, I think, yeah, this is a good concept. We could do more of this in Doctor Who. And the same for Companion Light as well. So I just want to acknowledge up front, yes, we're doing Dr. Light, and I'm always here for Dr. Light. I don't think a Dr. Light has ever let me down when I think about it.
No, it's let me down. But in the past, I think of some Dr. Lights I'm not that big a fan of. But that's not what we're talking about. I don't mind Dr. Light, and I think the clear outstanding one is the season 4 one, the name of which is Turn Left. Sorry, I got there. And that's a Dr. Light story where the Doctor's kind of present in the whole thing, even when he's not. This was just we're not doing Doctor Who today, so let's just get rid of the Doctor. And I think that, I don't know if that was it worked. So this is the problem with me doing my notes here, Rob. There's a lot of things where I'm sitting there going, it worked.
Yeah.
Despite my kind of better judgment that maybe it wasn't always the right decision, or that the reason for it was a bit baffling. But it all worked. So did this work as a Doctor Light episode? I have to say yes.
Yeah.
Do I think that having the Doctor in for about 3 minutes of a 42-minute show is a good idea? Well, I wouldn't have thought so, but it did work. But Rob, where was the Doctor?
I don't know, Dave. That's the mystery.
So this is a thing that I'll say up front. I absolutely enjoyed this. I was gripped by it. I enjoyed it, as I said. I'm very curious to know, and I'm going to make a point of it in 6 to 12 months. I'm going to come back to this one. And I'm going to see whether, knowing the twists, knowing the problems, knowing the good and the bad, this still works. I don't know how this will stand up to repeated viewing because of questions like that. When I'm just sitting there going, this is, really gripping and really terrifying, I don't really care where the Doctor is. But when I watch it the next time, and it's like, well, hang on, where'd the Doctor go? And why is the Doctor back? And why did the Doctor not vanish this time? I don't have an answer for that. And that, I suspect, may detract from repeated viewings.
Yeah, whereas I sort of leaned into that's part of the mystery and mischief if we're, starting off with a sort of folky horror type thing. There are things that are unexplained because we're dealing with the unexplained, so I can sort of my brain can just sort of go down that path and not ask too many questions. So it didn't bother me that much.
Yeah, my brain can't. And so it did bother me. And it's not something that detracted from the episode until the credits rolled, at which point I said, I really enjoyed that, but hang on, why did that happen and how did that happen and how did she tell the Doctor not to this time and how did that change and where was the Doctor? None of it makes sense in my brain.
Well, that's interesting because, yes, I mean, at the end, and of course, people, we're talking spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode, turn off now. At the end, Ruby becomes the woman and we come into this loop, but it's not really a loop because the loop gets broken and the Doctor never steps on the thing in the first place, so the Doctor technically never went anywhere.
Yeah, so I mean, look, RTD absolutely belled the cat, put the lampshade on the bowl, whatever you want to say. When he had Lethbridge Stewart say, "Oh, we're doing more and more supernatural things this year," there was a very open, "We're doing this," and I'm very open to the idea that Doctor Who can do different things. I'm not sure I want it to do this a lot more because, as we've discussed before, I'm not really a fantasy person. I'm more sci-fi, but I'm very happy for it to do this once. I think this is a really cool thing to do, and it basically worked. But yeah, I think there will be, and I'm interested to see how the split is over the next week. I think there'll be fans like you that will just go, that was a mystery, that was bonkers, that was magic, and I don't care because it worked. And there'll be fans like me that go, I enjoyed that, but I really, really need to know how it worked, why it worked. And I think it's not just a case of there were a few little details of the plot that you sort of go, oh, maybe he fudged that a bit. Like, the whole plot was a fudge. There was no moment where future Ruby did something that stopped the Doctor from stepping on the cotton and unspooling the whole thing. There was no explanation as to where the Doctor was or why. There was no explanation for, what future Ruby was saying to all these people. There was no explanation as to why she couldn't be photographed. It's kind of like that Simpsons line, a wizard did it. And just that's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that vibe from Ruby's mother that, you're not my daughter. And this can possibly tie into whatever is revealed about Ruby later in the season. So there may be something there, but we don't know it yet. Yeah,
and Ruby did get that line on her deathbed. Was it meant to be a deathbed? Was she dying? Did she die at the end?
I presume so.
Yeah, I don't know, not clear. There was that line from Ruby on her deathbed, I think, where she said something like, I found out who my birth mother was, and after that the snow stopped or something.
Gosh, it's hard doing these hot takes, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought there was a line along the lines of the snow didn't happen again after that.
Right. I mean, I want to go back because the politician guy on the TV talks about the 2031 Russian war, and I thought, hang on, aren't we in 2024? Is he talking about a potential war in 2031, or is it post-2031 and there was a sort of war where no missiles got fired? What is he talking about? I'm not sure what was happening in that scene, for example.
Well, let's talk about Roger Ap Gwilliam, or Mad Jack, as he was known. And I don't know whether that was just purely to get a few people going, oh my God, it could be Jack, it could be Mad, it could be Captain Jack, which was never going to be. Again, like, this was both the best and the worst part of the episode for me. The twist that the politician who was going to be the worst Prime Minister ever turned out to be the Mad Jack that was being referenced, etc., etc., I thought was, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. In fact, I made a note when the Doctor talked about, Roger Ab William, he's the worst Prime Minister. I thought, oh, there's another throwaway RTD line about, oh, he doesn't like this politician, whatever. It's another RTD undergraduate thing. And then I've got, oh no, that actually was a proper piece of foreshadowing. That was a proper piece of setting out. Well done, RTD. You have exceeded my expectations on that one. Congratulations, sir. And then at the end of it, I was like, but hang on. Who was this guy and why was this guy and what happened to him, and does he now no longer exist? Does the future that the Doctor talked about at the start of the episode not happen, or does it still happen but differently? So that was all a bit bizarre and a bit strange. And while I'm ranting, I'll keep going. I'll get to you in a moment, Rob. I'm sorry. And just generally sort of like, RTD did the politics here better than he normally does, but it was very superficial RTD. Like, I'm just going to have a politician who's got a party that's sort of very nondescript. It's called the Albion Party. Okay, we get what that is about, and that's reasonable. And he's just going to win an election, and then he's going to cause a nuclear war because why not? It's very shallow. It's very silly. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And again, stuff like the line about the Russian war is just RTD like headlines. Oh, recession. Oh, COVID. Oh, nuclear weapons. Oh, Russia.
But are they in 2031 there, or post 2031? Because he talks about this 2031 war.
Yeah, no. That's just a passing reference of something that happened.
So the time Ruby's gone to is like 2035 or something.
At the point in which he's having that conversation, 2031 is in the past.
Yeah, well, that's what I assumed, but I had thought that she was back in 2024, which is what confused me. Anyway, we won't get bogged down on that.
No, and again, I look forward to somebody out there on the internet doing the whole, like, timeline and working out, well, if it's, 40-year gap here, 5-year gap here, she turned 30 here, etc., what the gap would be. But she was already 40 by the time she starts working for William.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that at all.
Did you see the birthday cards?
I didn't pay any attention, I guess.
Okay. Well, this is interesting, Rob. This is where a very small detail is going to completely throw members of the audience, because when, how they were doing all the pictures of her at her window, like holding a drink up to herself in the future, there were birthday cards on the windowsill.
Right.
And they went from like 25 to 30 to 40.
Oh, okay.
So the last one was like there were birthday cards saying, you're 40. And so she was 40 by the time she had the glasses and was going to volunteer for the Albion Party.
Okay. Look, I understood some time had gone by because they showed her with different haircuts and longer hair and all of that. So I knew a period of time had passed, when she's sitting on the bench with that guy in the park, for example.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was quite that extreme, because when she was working for the party, aside from some dodgy-looking glasses, she didn't really look any different.
No, there was really no attempt that I saw to make her look 40. But that does mean that, yes, like the better part of 20 years has gone by. So we are potentially in like 2040 something. So yes, 2031 was long ago. So look, listeners, this is a very hot take, because we are literally piecing this thing together as we go. And it is a good reminder to me that all the little bits in the episode I'm going, well, that wasn't explained. Given that, Rob, you've just missed a really obvious explanation, about how old she was. What have I missed?
Well, indeed.
So maybe we've both missed a lot. This is the hardest hot take I think I've done, because I'm just really trying to throw a lot of very different thoughts into it, and it's a complicated episode where we have potentially missed stuff.
While we're still on Roger Ap Gwilliam, I thought, what, if RTD's doing his greatest hits in this series, stuff he's done before, and Moffat did the same, is this guy going to turn out to be the Master? Like, is he doing that whole the Master becomes a politician and wins power and all of that? This is the new Master we're being introduced to.
Yeah, I certainly had that moment of thought of, okay, we're back to the well again.
Yeah.
RTD has just created a politician that sort of, magically wins an election by, being nasty because RTD basically hates the British people and thinks they're all idiots. That is a thing that he does. He's done it in Doctor Who. He's done it in Years and Years. Like, he just thinks the population are basically wicked and evil, and he doesn't like them. And I think that's a negative about RTD. But enough of that rabbit hole. It was definitely a thing he's done before. I don't think it's that level. I think that we are meant to take it that William is the reincarnation or the spirit of Mad Jack, and Mad Jack was around, in the, 1980s, 1990s, something like that, or maybe even longer ago.
Right.
I think he is meant to just be an evil spirit or a reincarnation or something. It's not anything more than that. But that's just my take.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Although the people in the pub, when they're joking about Mad Jack, could it just be all a joke? And they're just riffing on Ruby saying, oh, it was about Mad Jack. And they're like, oh, Mad Jack, he used to, drink in this pub. Could that just be all made up? Again, I don't know.
Yeah, so let's talk about that scene, because that's one of my favourite scenes in the episode. And look, I have stayed at a few pubs in some very, very small villages in Wales, but they were very lovely people. They weren't nearly as terrifying as this lot. I genuinely, as I was watching that, got a bit creeped out and thought, oh, where's this going? And I didn't know what to expect when the door was open. I had expected to crash into the opening titles when the door opened, and we didn't get that. We didn't get the opening titles at all, did we?
Oh, I can't recall. We might not have, actually.
I don't think we did get opening titles at all. But that genuinely sort of was very well done, was very well subverted. The whole, these are strange, mysterious people in the pub, and you're expecting the whole, we don't have strangers around these here pirates. We didn't get that. The way that they sort of making fun of her, the way that she does do the whole, like, do you guys know you can pay on a telephone? There was a moment there I thought, oh, maybe they've gone back to, like, the year 2000, and they're like, wow. And then I realised, no, this is just Ruby, like, being like, assuming that people in villages don't know how to use iPay. I thought that scene was really good.
Yeah, I liked it too, I've got to say. And I, like so much of the episode, I was just thinking, where is this going? What is happening? And the woman showing up and saying stuff to people to turn them off Ruby, what did she say to that guy in that village? I mean, with her mother saying, oh, you're not related to me, just go away. That's one thing. But what would have concerned him about Ruby when he's never met Ruby before? So I was thinking about that after the fact.
Yeah, and there was that neat play where a couple of them did say, well, ask her. And we're going, oh, ask who? Ask the strange old lady or ask Ruby? And, of course, they're both Ruby. So, like, I get that. That's a clever play. But yeah, it is one of those things where you are sort of going, well, what was this all about? And again, I like the subversion. I thought that when the hiking lady, who apparently we were meant to recognise, and I did go and check the credits afterwards to find out who she was, and it is that Susan Twist lady, who I wouldn't have recognised, but again, Ruby said, oh, I've recognised you, and I went to the credits. Oh, that's that Susan Twist person everyone's talking about, but I haven't noticed myself.
Yeah.
I was very much expecting that hiker woman to, like, be brutally murdered or something, or the guy to be brutally murdered or something, and the fact that they just got scared and ran away was a neat subversion. So again, play to RTD for that. But even, I still don't quite know what was happening there, and I want to. And even the stuff you're talking about with Ruby's mum, Rob, where you're saying, oh, she said this, and I get that. I'm still like, but we've seen Ruby's mum. We know Ruby's mum is a good person. Even if she said something like, you're not really her daughter and she's this, wouldn't she say something to Ruby? Wouldn't there be some level of, what, I still love you, but I can only assume that there was magical powers going on there.
There has to be, because she was prepared for that moment, because Ruby had briefed her, and she was like, I'm not going to be like those Welsh people. I'm just going to go up and I'll be talking to her, and I'll talk to you on the phone. It's very straightforward, barely an inconvenience sort of thing. And then she turned. So yes, I think something magical must have happened to turn her. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that satisfies me.
No. Fair. A random comment right near the start of the episode, the Doctor mentions the war between the land and the sea, which of course is also the name of this potential spin-off show with the Sea Devils that's been talked about for some months now.
Well picked up.
Yeah, I just thought I'd mention that was in there.
Maybe that's going to be more magical than we expected it to be.
Well, the way things are going with the Doctor sprinkling salt at the edge of the universe and unit troops wearing amulets full of salt and all of this, we're definitely in a heightened sort of magical type period of Doctor Who, I think.
Look, we are. It's a deliberate choice. I'm not sure it's one I like, but I'll roll with it for now. And I'll be, as I say, I'm interested to see how fans sort of did take that vibe in this. Something I wasn't expecting, Rob. Mm-hmm. Unit turned up.
Yeah, I was quite happy with that, actually. I quite enjoyed the way Kate Stewart sat down and had this conversation, and it felt good. I thought this is great, and I actually enjoyed the confrontation between Unit and the woman, or the Unit and Ruby, as we could say. That was really well done, just the way they all turned on her.
It was really well done because I totally rode the roller coaster of those emotions with Ruby. I totally had that sense of this episode's getting really creepy and Ruby's really abandoned. I don't know how she's going to get out of this one. And is the Doctor suddenly going to turn up or whatever? Then Unit turns up and it's like, oh my God, Unit's here. Now things are going to be safe again. Now we're going to explain what's happening. Now we're going to start getting a resolution. No. Oh, they're abandoning her. And they're abandoning me. Yeah. And now I really have no idea how we're going to get out of this one. So yeah. I totally rolled that roller coaster. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, and a nice easing in of Unit, because if we're going to have Unit later in the season, as I suspect we might, it's just nice for them to make a cameo in this episode, just to remind us they're around. They're not a big part of this episode, but they're around.
Yeah, and this was a much better example of how to do exposition for the new audience, because in the conversation that Kate and Ruby had, there was that talk about this is who we are, this is what we do, we love the Doctor but we have issues with the Doctor, we get jobs for his ex-companions, and at no point was it a let me explain to the new Disney Plus audience that this is what I do. Yeah. It felt like a natural conversation, so that was a far better way to do it.
Yeah, oh look, absolutely agree.
Two quick things, Rob, because we have sort of meandered a bit in this conversation. Sian Phillips was in this, and that was fantastic. She was brilliant.
Yes, agree.
And the Mrs. Flood character was in this as well, and she was there.
Yep, she came out and gave a line and then said it's none of my business and buggered off again.
Yeah, so that tends to play into this idea that she is potentially going to be something a bit more ongoing.
Indeed, and look, for people who have said, oh, she's the old version of Ruby, I think this episode might have proved that that's maybe not the case.
Good point. But you never know, because this whole timeline didn't happen.
Yeah, history can be rewritten now, and not even just by the Doctor. That's interesting.
It is. It absolutely is. Sports desk time, Rob.
I think so.
Rob, this was one of the hardest sports desk choices I had in quite a while. Usually during the hot takes, I have one or two things that I jot down for my sports desk choices and can sort of, yep, that's the one I'm going with at the end of it. This one I had a very blank corner of my page that just had play, foul and player with nothing written there. And I had to sit down and go, Rob was going to want to record in 5 minutes. Oh, what am I going to put? So this was tough. So for that reason, I'll start with you, Rob. What was your play of the week?
I've given it away already, Dave. I think my play of the week is making this Dr. Light, because I enjoy Dr. Light episodes. I think it gives us the chance and the ability for a writer to do something different with Doctor Who, and that's what happened this week again, and so it's the Dr. Light format for me.
Yeah, very, very nice. I'm also going to go high level and say my play of the week was that we are back to almost Chibnall era levels of scenic filming. I thought there were just some gorgeous, gorgeous shots, and being a less big story, there was time to take actually do those shots and show the coast of Wales, which is lovely, which is really, really pretty. And I thought that was really good. I came close to giving it to the pub scene though, because that was a very cool scene I enjoyed. Absolutely. I'll keep going with my foul of the week, and okay. I'm just going to say it is the ending. It just didn't work for me. It wasn't so egregious as to be, well, that was a waste of time then, what the hell? But it was just a case of, I'm a bit disappointed they haven't explained all that. And followed by the quick, well, hang on, so why did, and where was the Doctor, and how, and I think that's a shame. It'll work for a lot of people, I get that. For me, it was a problem and the weaker part of the episode. What's your foul, Rob?
We essentially have a snap here, because what I jotted down, almost word for word, is everything goes nowhere, and although a loop is created, it's then broken. By which I mean that, Ruby lives this whole life, but that didn't go anywhere. Roger Ap Gwilliam becomes Prime Minister and resigns. That doesn't go anywhere, and the future he created doesn't go anywhere. We loop around, and it's like, oh, we're in this loop. Oh, no, now he never stepped on the thing, and the woman has disappeared. So the whole thing just went nowhere.
And without the catalyst, and I think that's what's really bugging me, go back to Turn Left, which I love. It's one of my favourite New Who stories.
Mm-hmm.
There is the moment where Donna has to go back and do a thing, throw herself in front of a car, so that past Donna turns left rather than right.
Yeah.
And because of that, time changes. And that's really cool. I don't know what that moment was.
No. Well, we know that she became the woman and she went back to that moment, but she didn't really do anything to stop the Doctor stepping on that thing. It just seemed that the second time around, Ruby noticed the fairy circle and was like, oh, don't step on that. And he didn't step on it.
And, sorry, again, we're going to have to rewatch this. This is the problem with the hot take. I thought that Ruby saw the lady before the Doctor stepped on the thing last time, or was it after?
I don't know, but would that have mattered? Would that have made her know to stop him stepping on the fairy circle?
Well, did Ruby in the present, seeing future Ruby just waving her hand slightly crazily, was that enough to heighten her senses and notice the thing on the ground and stop the Doctor?
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
That's an interpretation. It could be. I don't know.
It could be. Sorry, Rob, I'm interrupting your foul of the week. My apologies.
Oh, no, I'm good.
We'll keep going with your player of the week then.
Look, Dave, I think Millie really comes into contention here. It's a Millie episode. I will say this might have come across better. It might have felt more amazing if we'd had Ruby in 10 episodes already, and then we get the Ruby episode. But we're only 4 episodes into the season, and although I am giving this to Millie, and she carried the episode because she was basically in the whole thing, I think this would have hit better if we were in a 13-part season like the olden days and this was episode 10 or something. But I'm still giving it to Millie.
Fair enough. I came very close to giving it to Millie. She was pretty good, better in some scenes than others. I've actually decided to give it to Gemma Redgrave because I've never been a particular fan of Gemma Redgrave, either her acting or her character. But this one, I was totally sold. I totally rode the roller coaster with her and Ruby in that scene. I just thought, wow, she can act. It was really impressive. So very, very close with Millie, but I'm giving it to Gemma Redgrave.
Very nice.
Rob, your word of the week was horror.
Yes.
Explain.
Dave, I think Doctor Who always does horror well, and horror can come in many forms. And at the start of this episode, we had the Welsh folk horror of lobbing into a pub at night and everyone's a bit weird and you're being chased by someone and it's all very spooky, and that's horror. It's not necessarily people having their heads chopped off or Freddy Krueger or something like that. Horror has many forms, and I think the vibe of the horror continues in that Millie is now separated from the Doctor and has to live this life and get a job and all of this stuff. That's quite horrific in its own way. You're suddenly thrust into this life you didn't maybe particularly want. I don't think the episode plays that up enough. The horror vibe is more at the start of the episode. But I think with a little twist it could have continued all the way through. But regardless of that, I think horror is something Doctor Who should do more of. And again, not just violent, jump scare horror stuff. Horror is a key part of Doctor Who that I don't think it touches on enough.
I actually wrote down here fairly early on in the episode, they're doing the Blair Witch Project.
Right.
And indeed, when Millie caught the train back to London, I was sort of like, I was really enjoying all that Welsh village stuff. We're going back to London to see a family. But no, it did continue in a good vein. My word of the week was shame. And that's a number of things where I've thought, it's a shame. One of them matches in with what you said, Rob, which is, I think it's a shame that sort of really tense horror isn't done more in New Who, because it is really, really good and it was really, really enjoyable. I think it's a shame that they didn't quite tie this up quite as neatly as I would have liked them to. Mm-hmm. And I also thought, Rob, it is a real shame that this wasn't earlier in the season. Now, you just said that you'd like it to have been pushed back in the season so that we know more about Millie and then care more about her. I get that.
Well, particularly if we had a longer season, particularly if this could be episode 10,
I get that, but I was sitting there thinking, what a shame this wasn't episode 2.
Okay.
Because I've spent several episodes now going, I don't really know who Ruby is. And wouldn't it have been great if after a really silly, light RTD bonkers opening, we then go, we're going to go dark here. And we're going to let you just really get to know Ruby and show what this season can do and how good it can look. And then maybe do a bonkers one, then go back and do Boom or something like that. Once again, Rob, we are questioning the order in which these episodes have gone. So there are a number of things where I thought this could have been a little bit better, but it was pretty good. I can't give it higher than an A-. Mm-hmm. I want to give it more than I gave Boom. And I suspect that when we do our rankings at the end of this season, that is going to change my ranking of Boom a little bit. But I'm sticking with an A-. Really good. Couple of faults. What about you, Rob?
Dave, I was really here for this episode and I did enjoy it, but I don't think it quite delivers a knockout punch in the end. The threads just sort of peter out and it's not as satisfying an ending as I think we've already covered, so I won't go into that too deeply. There's just not that knockout punch at the end of a good episode, so I'm going with 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, very reasonable. I totally get that. And look, listeners, thank you for listening to another of our hot takes. This is, I think, one of the hottest hot takes we've ever done because I'm still getting my head around this episode, and I know I didn't walk into this with a really good set of structured notes. I think this episode's just been you and I trying to work through what just happened.
But it was like that way last week. A small piece of errata, folks. We didn't mention Virata Sethu being in last week's episode in our previous hot take. We will talk more about that on tomorrow's episode of the Doctor Who show.
Yes, no, we absolutely will. Just another example of these hot takes really being literally turn the TV off, scrub out a couple of extra notes, just go, I might start here and work to here, and we'll see what Rob does, and then record. It is 12 minutes between me hitting stop and me turning the mic on. So listeners, we'll be really interested to know how this one worked for you. We'll be really interested to know if you're in the same place Rob and I are, of just spending the rest of the day going, I'm trying to piece this all together. How many of you just pressed stop and went, I need to rewatch that again straight away because I need to now see if I can pick it all up. That'll be fascinating to know. But we've spoken enough. I've got the football match to go to. Carlton is hosting the Gold Coast.
Nice.
We'll be back tomorrow with our monthly show. We are doing Hollywood directors we want to see remake Doctor Who stories, and we have some really, hopefully really entertaining choices for you in there. But until then, I've been Dave.
And I've been Rob.
And we'll speak again tomorrow, and then next week, and the week after.
We will. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.